Hello and welcome, finally, to the brief return of the War Mode guides for Operation Intercept from the Resistance DLC, playable now on PS4. Vive la Résistance! Donc pour célébrer, chaque vidéo que je vais faire sur la Résistance DLC sera en français. Just kidding, that would be very annoying. I wish I could have done this sooner, but it's a busy time right now, and I wanted to make sure I still got plenty of playtime on the map before I made these things, on top of various private match testing, of course. Overall impression of the map, it is hectic and fast-paced. Tons of windows and little lanes everywhere, and everything is very compact. Like when you advance from Objective 1 to 2, they're practically right next to each other. Finishing all 3 objectives in 4 to 5 minutes is not all that uncommon in my experience if your team is just better. So it's an interesting map, certainly plenty to talk about. Starting off today with the attacking half of the map, because attacking tends to make for a more interesting guide. The first objective involves breaking into 2 rooms and freeing the 2 hostages inside each. The objective tracker says 3 because opening the door is considered step 1. The 2 main lanes for approaching A and B are often death traps. A is fairly long and open, I wouldn't go down the middle, although you can push up to the truck and then dash over to the side, but you're likely to run into a mounted gunner if you're in the open, and B has a little window on the side to challenge their building, but the rest of the approach is quite exposed. You can try to take those fights in the lanes or even try to smoke it off to advance, but I prefer to avoid the main lanes in favor of taking the middle building that you can enter near the A lane. It allows you to cut through the map and get right up to the objectives. Obviously that plan can change depending on enemy positions, but so far this building seems deserted all the time. The enemy team often ignores it. Maybe 75% of the time there's nobody here, and 25% of the time there's one guy to deal with. Maybe this will become better guarded when people get more comfortable with the map over time, like they can hop into this window fairly easily for a good defender spot. But for now at least, it seems like people huddle around in the A and B buildings, leaving the middle here largely ignored, so it's my favorite way to approach. I'll stop talking about the map layout from now on though, because I realize I'm only doing that because the map is so fresh right now. I doubt that's going to age well if you're watching this later for a more advanced guide. Once you get to play it a few times yourself, you'll get a feel for the layout. So let's move on. I'll just give you a couple key things to keep in mind for this part. The first being when you get to A and B, as soon as you set foot inside anywhere in the building, the objective indicator will turn yellow, so the enemy team will know something is up, they'll know you're inside, and probably attacking the objective. So just know that there's no way for you to make a stealthy approach. Assume that as soon as you enter, people will be running towards the objective room to defend it. So when you enter, be on guard. Sometimes people wait for that objective indicator to change before popping out to check the door. So I wouldn't rush straight to the door if you have no teammates around to help you out. I would try to clear the area first, maybe get a kill before going for the door, or maybe smoke it up, that's always an option in war. On the topic of clearing out the rooms, let's talk grenades. Here's the other thing to keep in mind. There are little grenade spots everywhere. On A, there are these windows that allow you to toss stuff through them before you break down the side wall, and this front window, in addition to throwing stuff in, it allows you to do a jump check to see what's going on in there, try to scope out defender positions. That has come in handy a lot. Also, when it comes to the hostage rooms themselves, for both of them, there are holes near the ceiling that allow you to toss stuff inside. Good for defenders, sure, but not only for defenders. As an attacker, if you get the hostage door open and then get killed before getting all the hostages, you can bet that defenders are going to start camping inside the hostage rooms. The defenders have no way to interact with the doors, they can never open them or reclose them, but once you open it up, that's a new place for them to camp. So when you run all the way back there, tossing grenades into that room is a very good idea, because otherwise they can have a huge advantage just by aiming their combat shotgun at the doorway. And in case you were wondering, no need to worry about harming a hostage, it's impossible. Thankfully, there is no penalty, so no need to hold back the grenade spam. Over on B, here's the same thing, another hole near the top allowing grenades to get tossed through, although be careful, the defenders actually have their own way to toss stuff inside through the back here, so when you're freeing the hostages, armored or the airborne hunker setup perhaps, is a great idea as usual in war. In most of the video, you'll see I'm using the resistance division because of contracts and stuff, but using that is not a great idea for an attacker. You'll be telling everyone that you're coming with the radar jamming. Anyway, overall, I think this is a fairly easy objective unless your team is woefully outmatched. It shouldn't take long to get in there. Opening the door and untying the hostages is a pretty quick process, so I'd like to move on to destroying the machines, the most interesting part of the map, I think. Similar to destroying the 10 radios on Neptune, except this time there are 25 machines of varying health. They aren't all the big ones, and this time around the defenders are able to repair the big machines. Not the smaller medium ones though, since they don't have nearly as much health and go down pretty quick. Let's first just take a brief look through in a calm private match, because if you've only ever been in here in the middle of a hectic game with your team destroying stuff, even after you've played it a few dozen times, you might not know where every single machine is. Entering in the right side here, you've got 3 small and 1 large in this bar area, then 3 small and 1 large in this main front room. Tucked away in the back, there are 2 small, 3 medium, and 1 large. These are the hardest to get to. We'll come back to these. And then up the stairs, you've got 1 large tucked away in there. And then you've got the remaining 10 scattered around in this room. 6 small, 3 medium, and another big boy right there. And of course, this second floor is a popular entry point as well. You can just walk straight up into this hole in the wall. And now you can see we're back out front. There are 5 total entry points, only 2 of which can be blocked by building walls. The far right hole and that hole in the corner. You can also enter through that window, of course the second floor, and there's a window on the far left side. Now that we're on the same page with the layout, time to talk strategy. On Neptune, using an FMJ LMG was incredibly powerful. It didn't destroy the machines faster or anything, but it did allow you to punch straight through most of the concrete and shoot almost every machine without even going inside. On this map though, they thought of that. All the walls are lined with sandbags that you cannot shoot through. The second floor, however, is the only area not lined with sandbags, and you are able to spam through those walls and destroy the machines. However, you really don't need to. It's a pain to line up all those shots, and the second floor is already the easiest place to attack. Just walk up here and most of the machines will go down very quickly if you take out the 1 or 2 defenders. Your teammates will probably be going for all these machines at the front and up top, so what I really want to talk about when it comes to strategy for this section are the machines in the back. Typically, they are the last to go down because they're in the back, right next to where the enemies are spawning and flooding in. If you and your team destroy the machines in the front first, and it gets to a point where the entire enemy team is focused on defending the back machines, you're gonna have a bad time. It's really tough to get in there. So if you want to be a war master, I highly recommend getting to them first and completely ignoring the rest. Your team will take care of those. So let's go over the methods for getting to them, starting with a common misconception and what not to do using lethals. There's a pretty nice grenade spot here where you can bounce frags over this wall and it'll land right in the back room there, and that can be good for killing people camping in there. However, if anyone has told you to use lethals to weaken the machines, they have been bamboozled by seeing a hit marker and thinking, ooh, I must be doing good damage. Your lethals will deal pitiful damage to these machines. On Neptune, I think it took 6 explosions to take out a big one. Not great, not bad. On here, it took 18 explosions to destroy a medium machine. Those things go down to bullets in seconds. I got bored measuring it for a big machine. You could kill them faster by using the direct impact damage of throwing the satchel charge on the machine and picking it up again. So don't be using grenades or anything to take these things out. It's not worth it. Lethals are good for killing people, just don't think it's working on the machines. Launcher direct impacts are still good though. They can 2-shot the large machines just like in Neptune, but you need a direct line of sight for that, and bullets will still be faster when you consider the reload. Also worth noting, shotguns are much better on these machines than they were on the Neptune machines, because they really sucked on those, but if you want to shotgun it up on this map, that's not a bad idea. Finally, back on the topic of reaching the machines in the back, it is possible to hit the big one from the outside. There will be no sandbags in your way if you're looking through this window and wallbanging through the corner of that wall, but honestly that's not my favorite way to take that out. It takes quite a bit of shooting with any of the LMGs. In an actual game, it's tougher than you might think to stay alive for that long. There will be enemies all around this area attracted to your shooting. So here's the plan. Starting with a class, here's a throwback to all the testing I did on the Neptune machines. I remembered that one of the fastest ways I discovered to take out a big machine from full without reload was with Akimbo extended mags machine pistols, and that remains true. They are DPS monsters, so I threw that on there. You could also focus on the primary SMG only and use Hustle instead for the quick reload, but unlike Neptune, where I liked the stealthy aspect of the suppressor, trying to stay alive longer inside the comms room, this time it's a suicide mission. I just want to do as much damage as possible, so you could even bring something like an extended mags MG15 instead of an SMG. So this is what I do every game. While your team attacks the front and the defenders are all spread out trying to deal with that, you take the left flank route, hop in the window, and go straight for the big boy in the back, ignoring people unless you have to defend yourself, ignoring everything. So far, it has worked every time. If you don't take this out early, it gets much harder because that's the one that they can repair. In a second, a defender can have this back to full health unless you destroy it all the way. The machine pistols take care of it nice and easy, and it's gone immediately. And you don't need the Akimbo machine pistols or anything. Those are just for fun if you're crafting a class specifically for this. There are plenty of weapons that'll work. You just don't want to have to reload, and you should be able to take it out no problem. After that, I just go for the other machines in the back here. I'll probably get killed sometimes immediately after getting the first one. That's fine. I just keep running that same route, going back to that room until I get that done. They may pick up on that and increase their defenses in that area. Maybe you'll end up needing a lethal to get you in or a smoke. I've started to really love smoke grenades in this section simply because you can see the outlines of the machines through the smoke. That fact makes smokes great because you can be completely hidden while still being able to see and take out the targets. So smoke up the whole building if you can. It's fantastic. If I do get all those backroom machines before my team has dealt with everything else, then my new target will be entering in the top floor and going for the big machine in that nook at the top of the stairs. I find that one also gets ignored a lot, and it is a big repairable one. Good to take care of those early. Once that's dead, we should be nearly done. I'll just go for whatever's left, and if there's one machine left that you just can't find, I always go to check this top floor table for one of the tiny radios sitting on there. I guess people miss it because that outline is kind of hard to see in the sunlight. Most of the other machines probably went down really early because most of them you can shoot from outside the building, so I leave those for the rest of my team to take care of. Anyway, I think that order of operations is very important. If you take anything away from this video, it should be that: rush straight for the room in the back and take those out before it becomes too late. Smokes are great, and lethals are not for taking out machines. Excellent. Time to move on to the final stage, being the tank escort, which of course I have less to say about. We've seen tank escorting before. All I can do is talk about the key parts of the map. I'll also remind everyone that these lines on the tank escort bar are not arbitrary. They represent very important checkpoints that the tank can't roll backwards past, and they bring your spawns forward and push enemy spawns back. For the first part, I find you can make great use of that tank gun to move forward if you know where to expect people. There's also a flamethrower dropped for defenders in a spot that's fairly easy to steal if you're quick. It seems to drop pretty late. After hitting the first checkpoint, you'll start to see these interactable train doors. Both teams can slide them back and forth, although there isn't much point. Yeah, it would be nice to cut off the enemies here. I've experimented with closing it a few times, but it only takes a second for them to open it again, so I prefer to just keep my guns up, focus on taking people out and moving the tank forward. The most interesting part of the map is going to be the final section, as it always is. If the enemy team is any good, you're going to be attacked from three main directions: the left platform, the right flank train car from their spawn, and the back of the map. Maybe some snipers hanging around behind that truck or the two mounted gun areas. That big triple crossfire can be very difficult to deal with. You really need some team coordination to make this work. There's no magical tip that will allow you as a solo war player to break through this defense by yourself. Just keep a couple of roles in mind that you can play. One role is obvious enough: the objective role, staying with the tank, moving it forward. The tank gun was good up to this point, but I find it really hard to use here. You're just asking to die. There are way too many angles to try to spin around and watch all at once. Armored or hunker is a must for this role to stay alive long enough to do any good. Again, I might not be using it in the gameplay there because challenges, but ideally I would gravitate towards armored because airborne isn't really needed. You don't need to run very far to get back in the fight. That frees you up to run something like double grenades or even a Panzerschreck or something. When entering this area, I like to be on the right side of the tank to take people out on the left platform. Then after that side is clear, you can take the left side of the tank to be protected from the train car on the right while focusing on only what's in front of you. This is where you really need your team to be helping. It's not like you can do this alone, because then they'll just pour out of that train car and keep the tank contested, but that's that. Another role you can play takes advantage of this huge, very important spot on this wall here. This is obviously not a secret spot, it's clearly very intentional, but you have to be taking advantage of it as an attacker. You can use this to clear people off the mounted guns in the back and take people out as they flow out of the train car side. You don't have a good angle on the left platform, although you may be able to toss grenades there, so you could play this Overwatch role. I know everyone hates on people sniping in war, and most of the time that is justified if you're just getting kills in a place that doesn't help anything move forward, but right here is a good spot to break out a sniper to help your team advance with the tank, because they won't be getting anywhere when there are double gunners back there. I like sniping specifically because it allows you to one-shot kill people using the mounted guns, whereas if you're using any old rifle, you'll have to deal with the extra health they have for being on there, and you're gonna lose that fight to them a lot. So sniping in this spot can be very effective. Other than that, smokes are always an option to try to block off one of those areas or just hide in it by the tank, force them to come to you. This section is tough though. Getting through it will mostly depend on your team compared to their team. Sometimes we just roll straight through. This was a full 6v6 that dropped down to a 6-on-5. I don't know why it was that easy, but that happens sometimes. And other times you'll get completely shut down by a solid defense. But hopefully your solo effort can be enough to turn the tide in a close game. And with that, we're done with the attacking half of Operation Intercept. Hopefully, especially in the radio destroying section, you've learned a couple things you can try to apply in game. Let me know how that goes. And of course, it's still fairly early with this map. I try to come up with some interesting things to say, but I've surely skipped over a couple potential tips and strategies. If you have something you want to add in the comments, go right ahead. Defending half coming up next, probably less interesting than attacking as usual, but I'll get that done when I can. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.